22nd June 1973. It has been reported to me, Captain Joseph D. Shriber of the 67th Tactical Fighter Squadron, that you are a member of a group of officers that congregated in the officers' open mess at Changchuan Kang Air Base, Taiwan during the evening of 14 June 1973, apparently celebrating the rotation of a friend. During the evening, in your presence, the group of which you were a part spilled drinks on each other, kicked bottles around the bar room, screamed filthy and obscene language and epithets at will, broke glasses both on the floor and against the wall. Your group sang filthy and obscene songs. You played games involving climbing on each other's shoulders and on the bar. And you were insolent and disrespectful to Colonel James Belinsky, the commander of the 374th Tactical Fighter Airlift Wing, when he tried to moderate your actions. Also, you were observed on one occasion during the course of his wild and drunken incident to have removed your flight suit and to be standing on the bar drinking in your underwear. You are hereby reprimanded. Your actions were those of a spoiled, immature child and not a man who is supposedly fit to be an officer of the United States Air Force. All the home training, education, military indoctrination you may have received seems to have gone for naught. Your actions in joining and supporting a group that made a shambles of the club, drove persons from the bar area, and evidenced disrespect to a senior officer were reprehensible and beyond explanation. These actions manifest a deep-seated failure on your part to adjust to the rigors of military life. Accordingly, your future usefulness as an officer of the United States Air Force is now seriously in question. Your concentrated and diligent efforts to meet those high and uncompromising standards expected of an officer are now required, as your conduct and job performance will be closely scrutinized. Any future derelictions on your part will result in swift and stringent administrative and disciplinary actions. This correspondence will be permanently filed in your master correspondence and miscellaneous document file at Randolph Air Force Base, Texas, in accordance. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to have Mr. Joe Shriber on the Flying Dutchman Podcast. He has an interesting history from the F-105 Weasel to the F-4 Phantom to planning targets for Operation El Dorado Canyon. Thank you for joining myself as we speak with Joe Shriber. Let's go. So welcome to the Flying Dutchman Podcast, and today's guest is Joe Shriber. Joe Shriber is a unique individual, and that he started flying, and he was trained as a navigator, which we're going to talk about, where he ended up in the F-105 Thunderchief, later on in the F-4 Phantom, and as his career continued to grow, he got into some interesting work that didn't include flying, but was very instrumental in Operation El Dorado Canyon. And we're going to talk to some of that too. So I'd like to welcome Joe. Joe, welcome to the Flying Dutchman Podcast Show.
I'm glad to be here, and hope I can help you out with your work with trying to make aviation videos.
Yes, I think you will. And we're going to talk some of the, what sometimes pilots refer to as "I love me" wall. There's photographs in the back.
Yes.
In your office there's models, which I'm a big fan of. I build models as a hobby, and
Yeah.
I've got a signed model by a few pilots. Richie Cunningham is one, but yeah. So what we're going to talk about is I'm not focused on the systems so much and weapons as the human story and some flying stories. And so how old were you, and when did you get the bug for aviation, sir?
Well, we grew up in Ogden, Utah, which is right close to the Hill Air Force Base. And I was born in the mid-40s, before World War II ended. So they still had a lot of airplanes flying when I was growing up, and be able to see airplanes fly. So when we were 4, 5, 6 years old, we'd see B-24s and B-29s and all those airplanes coming into Hill. Even though they weren't stationed there so much, they probably came there to refuel or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we first got interested in aviation.
Was your home in the flight path of the pattern? Is that how you saw them?
Pretty much, yeah, we could see it. They always came in from across the Great Salt Lake and all, but if they had to do a long straight in approach, we could just look out in the distance and see them flying.
Oh, how neat.
And so because of just being close to an air base, you see the little airplanes flying too, because Ogden's municipal airport was close there.
Ooh.
And our father was a pilot, so he took us for rides every once in a while.
Oh, he was a civilian pilot?
No, he just well, he was a pilot just on his own. He just do it once in a while, He didn't fly much. He'd have to rent the airplane every time.
Oh,
But the first flight we went on, he told us, here's a little container here in case you get sick. But if you don't get sick, when we come back, I'll get you a milkshake in that container. So that was the motivation not to get sick.
yeah, nothing worse than eating milkshake
So,
out of
anyway, that's how we got into it. And then came up to about the time we were going to high school. Then the Vietnam War was beginning. Graduated from high school in '62. Was going to college in '63, but the war was starting to come on with the draft a little bit later on. And our older brother went through ROTC. We went to school at Utah State. I don't know whether you can see a picture back here on the wall, but this is the three of us there. My oldest brother in the middle. That's me here, and my twin brother there.
Oh, you have a twin brother?
Yeah, I had a twin brother. Well, we went through navigator school together too. But
really,
during college, he had the courses which caused him to read a lot more than I did. So his eyes went haywire. And in those days, you needed 20/20 vision. But, I don't tell many people the story, but I might as well now because they won't can me or my brother. I took his eye test to get in. He took my hearing test.
Really?
And so Night Celestial's where they caught up with him. I should have taken the Celestial test, but we didn't know at the time how much you'd have to use celestial navigation. And of course, we didn't carry sextants in the F4.
No. And you were if you were taking navigator training, that would have been Mather Air Force Base in Sacramento.
That's right, in Mather. It's quite close to here, yeah.
The T-29s.
T-29s, yeah.
Yeah, that's that Convair. It's a Convair product. Nice airplane.
Yeah, they have one of them over at the McClellan Museum, the C-131. It's a copy of it, pretty much. But the idea of flying at Mather was, pretty interesting and all that. So I had a background. I started out in electrical engineering in college, but it would have taken me 5 years to graduate taking ROTC. So I switched to radio, television, broadcasting, so I could graduate in 4 years. But with that double E background, I had an interest in ECM, electronic countermeasures. So I said, well, after all the assignments were made based on your class standing in nav school about the predominance of aircraft assigned were B-52s. I had no interest in going to B-52s. And they also had C-124s, which are the real slow-moving Goldmaster.
Oh, shaky.
So just the choice of those assignments, I asked, what other choice would you have? Well, they said we have selections for navigator bombardier training and also electronic warfare officer training. So just asking what kind of assignment you get out of that. Again, out of NBT, the predominance of B-52s, and he was also B-52s, but also some fighters. So that's where I set my goal, was to try to get into a fighter if I could.
And that would have been based on your scores and where you stood?
Yeah, because EWO school is like a 6-month course in electrical engineering. You learn diodes and all that kind of stuff, transistors,
pretty intense.
Diodes and circuits and all that kind of thing. Because ECM is electronic, is all the frequencies, and you have to know what the frequencies are to either jam them or be able to evade them and all that kind of thing.
Were they referred to as bands, like J bands?
Yeah. They changed the bands around over time. It used to be the X band and I band and all that stuff. Then they made them A through H or whatever one they were done.
Now you're at navigator training, your electronic warfare training, and you scored enough to land a fighter jet?
Well, not right immediately. There were 16 in our class, and there were 4 F-105s. So about that time, I says, you don't want to take a 105. You're going to go over to Vietnam and, may or may not come back. Probably not. So you don't want to fly fighters, just to stay away from them. And so I tried to motivate at least the first 2 not to take a fighter.
So, is that how you worked that?
Yeah. So the first guy took an AC-130 gunship, which is even worse.
Hmm.
And the next guy took a B-57. So then I knew I was in. Then the
And
third guy volunteered for a B-52 because he could get an assignment. He thought near his home in someplace wherever in the Minot or wherever he lived.
oh, okay.
So anyways, I was able to get the F-105 in there and got checked out in that pretty much and had to go through McConnell in Wichita, Kansas.
That was where the transition was for the.
Yeah, so you make just to jump in the back and go for a ride and see all that, see how the instruments work and everything, and
Hmm.
and the modified airplane that has the instruments raised up and all the ECM gear put down below, just to get orientation in the airplane more than anything else.
Okay.
So we just got the basic F model or G model, which is a trainer, two-seater
Hmm.
that they give check rides into pilots, and so we stayed at McConnell for just a while, then came back to Nellis for the electronic or the Weasel training, well, Weasel school. Then
Wow.
from there to Karat. And the timing being in about the 68 time frame. Uh,
Oh.
so we got to Karat about see May of 68.
Hmm.
In October, they didn't bomb up north anymore, so we had no targets to go after, no surface-to-air missiles. We couldn't see them from where we were. You couldn't launch them out of Thailand to hit them because of the range of our
And was
missiles.
this during the Johnson bombing halt? Is that what that
Oh
was?
yeah. Johnson decided not to bomb up north anymore, and so that was it. I think LBJ decided, we can't bomb in North Vietnam anymore because we'll probably get the Chinese involved or something like that. Whatever his theory was in politics.
Yes.
So
So
bombing was halted, and so they wanted us to just drop bombs around South Vietnam and all that stuff. So I was able to come back in early '69, about the March April '69. Then I went into the F4 transition, got into F4s.
and where was the F4 transit? Well, how many missions did you fly in the 105?
I flew 101 missions
Oh, wow. Okay.
and 43 over North Vietnam.
Hmm.
So we'd fly one or two a week, typically over
Uh-huh.
North Vietnam, sometimes three times a week.
And these
Oh,
were strikes and harms that you were firing?
no, we had strikes. I'll show you what a strike is here. The
Yeah.
strikes were pretty small. The standard arm was big. Standard arm was, we had a few of those, but not many.
Uh-huh.
Can you see this thing can you see this?
Yep.
That's
He's a little small, but he looks almost kind of like a Sparrow missile in a way.
yeah, a sparrow's about probably 4 feet longer than this. And
Uh-huh.
this is a sparrow down here.
Okay.
Can you see this on the F4?
Hmm.
Get a hold of it right there.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put some of the photographs of these weapons and the
Yeah,
F-105 as we
but
talk about.
we were limited by the range of that Shrike missile
Oh,
because it had a range of about 17 miles, whereas the range of a SAM was about 21 miles.
oh, so you were dueling it.
There's a little bit of the overlapping trick, but then Leo Thorsness came up with a tactic which we all couldn't use depending on the situation. But
Hmm.
if you just pull the nose up, you can get more range. You
Kind of
know,
a lobbing effect.
yeah, you kind of lob it into the basket.
And
But
this
that
is,
depends on how close you are to the threat. Because if you do that, you're a broader target. So it depends on the situation. If you're surprising them pretty well, you got that much time. But if not, you got to just try to stay low and come in there and sneak up on them if you can.
was it the G model that you were flying in the back
Uh,
of
the
or the F model?
the F model,
Okay.
yeah, the F and G
So
are virtually the same. The G was just a little bit better. That had modern switches, more better radios and that kind of stuff is all the G had for. It
you
was
referenced Leo Thoris.
Yeah, he was the Medal of Honor winner. He was the guy, I guess, in at the 67, 65 time frame,
Uh-huh.
60, 67. Anyway, he spent a long time as a POW because on one of his missions, his wingman and his backseater got shot down. And so he directed the SAR in on that mission. And during the SAR, he got real short on gas, but the MiGs came in to attack him. So he got one of the MiGs and then he got another one, had to go get some gas and try to come back. So it was like when they came back was when they encountered the MiGs. And so when he got back to his base, he landed on fumes. But later on, 2 days later, he got shot down and captured. But from the mission where he kept his buddies from being captured. That's why he got the Medal of Honor
Oh, and he was able to shoot down two MiGs with the
with
F-105 cannon.
with the gun. Yes,
Wow, that's quite a feat.
yeah, no
Um,
kidding.
the the real threat as a weapon system operator, a SAM hunter killer, is if you were shot down, you would be a prized possession to the North
Sure,
Vietnamese
for
for
sure,
life.
yeah.
Yeah, that it wasn't a very
Yeah.
pretty reception that you would have received
No,
because yeah, they were really sought after. These guys that might have had to punch out over Indian country there, and SAR being search, air, and rescue is what
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
he
So
was covering.
search and rescue. SAR.
Yeah. So so you did 101 missions in the F-105, and you went back to the States to
Yeah,
transition to the Phantom.
yeah, the Phantom. Yeah, and during linebacker, we came back I was going to go to the Phantom Weasels, which I went through the school for and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
Holloman was transitioning from backseat pilots to backseat navigators. And so they said, hey, there's a slot for you. You're going to be the wing eagle as a first lieutenant at the 49th TAC Fighter Wing. so
Oh,
so I went to
as a
Holloman
lieutenant.
as a lieutenant. Yeah, as a wing eagle there
Wow.
at Holloman. So I did that. And then on 72, we went to linebacker and came back. And then I went to Kadena, Okinawa in the F-4C Wild Weasel. And they had,
Ooh.
and that was in about November 72, I guess. That's when I got
Uh-huh.
there. Sometime late 72, I think, because in January 73, we were we came back from Okinawa. So I guess we went from Kadena to Karat in about September. So I got there about early November and joined them in Karat and then finished up that part.
And this was with the Holloman F4Ds
No, no, that was with the Kadena F4
with the Cs.
CY Weasel.
Oh,
I just talking
yeah.
about the Weasel part of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. What?
Holloman. We flew out of Tak Lee in Thailand in Holloman.
Uh-huh.
So we got there in about May, I think it was May of 72. Came back in October. Spent about
Yeah.
6 months in Thailand.
Well, that was a good time frame for killing MiGs for the Air Force and Navy.
Well,
That time frame.
could have been better. That's when we came up with the aces, all right.
Yeah.
Chuck
Now,
Chuck
when you, hmm?
Chuck de Bellevue got 6 as a backseater, and then he went to pilot school. And then Jeff Feinstein, the same thing. And
Oh yeah.
Steve Ritchie was the only pilot in the Air Force that became an ace in Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Driscoll was the backseater for I guess the Duke Cunningham in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
So Nate
Mm-hmm.
Cunningham and Driscoll and Duke were the
Mm-hmm.
Navy aces.
Yes.
They could
Yep.
fly.
And when I'm going to go back a little bit. You're at Holloman with the F4Ds. You guys are ordered to report to take and go to Vietnam to Thailand with
To talk the
Tak Lee. So, how many jets? What did that look like? Did all the jets go at once, or was it over a month period
no
that you guys?
no we
What
did
did that look like?
we did it in 4 days.
How many jets?
72 airplanes in 4 days. Four
70,
squadrons. Yeah,
72.
4 squadrons of 24 airplanes apiece. So they had the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 417th squadrons. And one day, uh, it took 3 days to get there, but we all did it from the time we left. We got there in 4 days with one squadron. So the next day, another squadron would come. The next day, another one after that. So total of
Wow.
12 days. From the time the first squadron started till the last one landed was about 10 days. And we had all the airplanes over in Talkley.
Wow.
And then we flew
Um,
combat a day and a half later. And
wow. Imagine
the
that.
first targets were in South Vietnam, supporting the Ho Chi Minh Trail around there. Down
Uh-huh.
there, we'd take off with a load of bombs and go over and find some targets off of a FAC, a forward air controller, or OB-10s or O2s, marking
Oh,
targets,
really? Yeah.
with their smoke, and then we'd find it, they give them help, and then go to either Bien Hoa or Da Nang, get another load of bombs and do another mission and come back. So it was a long day with two missions. And each
Yeah.
mission, each flight was about, well, going over was about 3 hours. by the time you landed, that was another 3 hours coming back. So after the mission,
Oh, that's a long time to have that sun beating down on your cockpit. Huh?
yeah,
That'd be,
we
we're
had
gonna.
lots of tankers over there.
Oh, you did, huh?
Yeah, they had these tracks named after colors, like cherry and purple and white and orange, all that.
And that was where the tanker call signs at.
Yeah, that's what they were. They had an orbit, like the cherry tankers would be around Ubon, and white tankers would be off to the west, and over the yellow tanker would be off the Gulf of Tonkin or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But I
So
can't
you,
remember. Can't remember which colors were actually were, but that's how we found them. Sometimes we'd come back and tanker wouldn't have enough gas, or we couldn't get there in time, so we'd have to land at Ubon or Udorn to get some gas, and then come home.
oh
Did
wow.
that a couple of times.
So you were really low on gas when these tankers were finally able to come and get
Well, we wouldn't have been if the tanker had gas.
you.
It's just that by the time we got to the base and all that stuff, we
Hmm.
weren't really that low. Just we couldn't make it back home, is all. So we
Couldn't make
needed,
it home. We
needed
put that
gas.
lightly.
Tok Lee was far in the northwest corner of Thailand.
Did you ever have to divert to another base because you couldn't make it back?
Well, just to get gas.
Oh, okay.
I've got another story though. One time in Benoit,
Hmm.
we were just taking off with our load of bombs to go on a mission, and the front canopy came off. So that's an unusual event.
Well, that's very unusual. What?
So Alan Page and I were flying that mission, decided to go up to about 8,500 feet, dump some gas, and see if we could land with all the bombs or not. And it'd be a little ways to go off and drop in the water or something, but if we could, since we didn't have fuse extenders, why not just come back with the bombs? So that's what we did.
Oh,
And
wow.
had to fly for about 35 minutes or so without a front canopy,
Uh-huh.
go up to 10,000 feet. That's supposed to be the oxygen shortage level. So we went up to about 8,500 feet, no oxygen with no pressurization. A lot of noise in the airplane.
Oh my gosh, I bet things were just flying around in the
Yeah,
cockpit.
it gets cold up there too.
Did you lose your paperwork, your maps and everything go blowing out?
He lost most of his stuff. What he didn't really like was losing his water. He had a water bottle,
Oh,
and he was just. I guess he had it set in the map case or something like that, but with all it just kind of sucked it out.
yeah.
And he didn't zip the map case closed. He just had it sitting in there.
You
But
didn't ex
the the canopies aren't a spare part. So we didn't think about it. We thought, so we'll just come back here and fix the airplane and go home. But they don't have canopies sitting around. So
Oh,
had to call
no.
Top Lee and say, hey, how about a canopy? You got one around? They said, well, we got this hangar queen. We'll go get it off that airplane and bring it on a C-130 tomorrow. So you
Wow.
guys find a place to stay. So we just walked around the base and, hey, where's the BOQ? And people say, what's a BOQ? They had no idea. There being Marines at that base. So
Uh-huh.
so we just needed a place to stay tonight. Says, yeah, well, our Marines in the field. Do you want to go out and join them in the field? And I said, no, we'd like a place to stay here. Oh, really? We got these barracks here, but they're occupied pretty much, but there's nobody there. So that's why we're reluctant to give them to you. So well, we just need a bed or someplace to stay. Okay, you can sleep on any one of those beds, but don't sleep in any one of them. Marines get mad over that. So
Yeah.
just pick out a bed. Meanwhile, he says, let's take a tour of the base since you're going to be walking around here. He took us down to the package store and we looked in there and says, oh yeah, we could use some of this stuff because we have a bar in Thailand, but you don't have the availability of a BX or anything. Tok Lee had just been opened. It's a
Oh.
new base, so they're just setting up a BX.
Uh-huh.
So we couldn't go down to the store and buy packaged liquor any place like that. So I noticed this big bottle of Tanqueray. Everybody's talking about gin. I like to get some gin. So I picked a big bottle off the shelf and took it over the counter and gave the guy $10. And he says, okay, you're obviously military. You're wearing a flight suit and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
said, do you have anything smaller than that? And I said, no, that's all I got. So he gives me $9.50 in change.
Oh my
So
gosh.
50 cents for a big bottle of Tanqueray.
Yeah, you imagine?
So anyway, I managed to get that in the map case on the way back.
And how long were you there?
Just one night. We left about 2 o'clock the next day.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted to check out the airplane before we flew another combat mission, so we just brought the bombs back over to Top Lee.
So you were able to land with that payload.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Oh,
just a
okay.
matter of weight more than anything else, you know. You just can't
Yeah.
overweight the airplane.
Okay. I guess if you burn off enough fuel to offset
Yeah,
flat.
the problem is if you had fuse extenders on the bombs, you can't land with those. That's like a 40-inch pipe that sticks out the front
I've seen photographs of that.
of the bomb with a 500-pound Mark 82.
Wow. Do do they know why the canopy came off the way it did?
No, they figured the seal came loose because he never hit the switch. You know, you just fly, cut your hands on the throttles and hand on the stick.
Yeah.
It just cracked a bit on the corner or something, and it just pitched away. You know.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I thought he ejected or something, but
Oh,
I said that can't be. I'm the first one to go.
okay. Yeah, because there is a sequence in the
Yeah,
ejections.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
that
said, what the hell are you doing? He said, oh, God damn it, you know.
uh
He was all upset. He tried to talk to the guys on the ground and they couldn't hear him. So I had to do all the talking, you know, because of the wind that he had.
and what model F4 was this?
That's a D model, just one of the regular ones we had.
Okay. And the D model had a control stick in the back.
Oh yeah, we had all the flight controls in the back. It's unlike
Yeah.
the Navy, because they
Yes.
had pilots. Pilots were in the back seat all along, you know. They were called
Yeah.
PSOs instead of WSOs. They're pilot systems operator officers. We were weapons systems officers or
That's interesting.
EWOs, but that was how we got. Of course, we all got a lot of stick time too. Didn't
Oh
take
yeah.
long. Didn't take long to learn how to fly an F4.
So you went from the F4D with Holloman to the F4C for
Yeah,
wild weasel training.
yes, that's right. That because all the weasels they had were C's at the time.
Uh-huh.
See,
And the F-105s were going away.
yeah, they didn't go away so much. They just if they could use F4s, that would be better. Because
Mm-hmm.
when during that Linebacker II, there were 25 F-105s and 12 F4s in
That's how
that
many were in theater.
during Linebacker II. That's when they were. Yeah, that started in September 72 until January 73.
Oh, so that was leading up to the Christmas bombing.
Yeah, and so we only flew at nights when the B-52s were coming in, typically. And one time we had 250 planes in the sky.
250?
Yeah, counting the tankers and the bombers and all that. Problem was the bombers never changed their tactics, so it was bad news. That's why they lost 30 of them in about 11 or 12 days.
Oh my stars. Now
Uh,
where would you have been positioned in this flight?
could be
This
in any place along. Usually we'd talk to the controllers over there, Panama and Peacock, with the
uh-huh.
controllers, and they just tell us where the different flights had gone. But we're trying to go over to protect them a little bit against the SAM site. So once we got into Vietnam, we go up around wherever their targets are going to be.
So ahead of the bombers?
Yeah, about the time the bombers are coming in, Yen Bai, and then that's an airfield up there, and
Mm-hmm.
Fujian and all the rest, all those places up there, you know, the steel yards. And anytime the SAMs became active, that's when we try to go after them. And sometimes they'd come active before we got there. They'd be salvoing the B-52s.
Oh.
But
Now, did the MiGs ever come up at night?
no, they did one time, but they didn't never make any attacks or anything. They never came after us anyway.
No.
But they didn't fly at night, you know.
Yeah.
They don't like single airplanes. They like a whole flight full of them, you know. That's what they did during the daytime. Anyway, when we were doing Weasel missions in the daytime.
And you had your escorts escorting
We
you
had
guys.
I
Is
had
that
MiG cap, but we didn't need any protection because the MiGs never came after us.
okay?
And the MiG caps came out of combat air patrol. They came out of UDORN, but they just
Oh.
monitor the flights because we wouldn't be a flight by ourselves. We'd be with other flights,
Uh-huh.
you know, trying to protect them against all the SAMs.
Did the Weasels, did you guys operate as a team?
Yes.
Like you had a wingman and you guys worked it that way?
Usually we had one guy with either one or two wingmen, and they would have a load of bombs instead of missiles. Sometimes we'd have two with the air-to-air missiles, or with the air-to-ground missiles, the Shrike AGM-45s.
Mm-hmm.
But usually we'd have separate targets. They'd have different SAM sites because we had two Shrikes, and that'd be good enough for a SAM site if it came active. That's what we're after.
Uh-huh.
So anyways, we call it hunter killer. So that if we could put a SAM site out, then the other airplane would drop CBUs on it and all that stuff to get rid of all the remaining SAMs that may be around in case they come back up with their radar to try to destroy the SAM site if we could.
So would they play the North Vietnamese? Would they play the trick of turn the radar on, turn the radar off?
Oh yeah, as soon as they saw us coming and when launch the missile, they'd try to pull the plug, and then our
Hmm.
missile would fall out of the sky. But the standard arm had a memory capability, so it would go after it. So,
Oh, it had a memory capability.
yeah, but we ran out of standard arms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the standard arm also. I don't know if you can see. I'll point this thing out. See the fuel tank on F-105?
Yeah.
It's a 770-gallon tank, but that comes off, and that's where the standard arm would go. So you put the standard arm where the fuel tank is because it's size limitation and its weight. So you have to use a little bit of correction on the rudder trim when
Uh-huh.
you fly. So you got one 770-gallon tank of gas, and you got the strike on or the standard arm on the other side. Standard means standard, then arm is anti-radiation missile.
Okay.
Sometimes they call it a storm. It's the standard arm. But anyway,
Uh,
just because of its size limitation, you couldn't put it on any one of the pylons on the airplane. So you had to load it where a fuel tank was. So you're short that much fuel. And then when you launch that missile, you got to jettison the fuel tank to,
oh,
so you don't have the different problems when you're trying to fly.
yeah. But that also guaranteed a trip to the tanker, didn't it?
Yeah, you're going to go to the tanker anyways, but
Okay.
it's just actually it gives you less drag. And we
Oh,
drop that tank away.
right, right. And do you know how many missile shots you took with the Phantom?
Oh, I didn't count them. I
Okay.
had 4 kills for 4 SAM sites we destroyed.
Oh,
As I did, yeah.
nice.
But
Can you? It's
probably,
night missions, right?
yeah, they were one of these at night. But I probably fired 30 or so, I guess.
Okay. Would you be able to see the destruction of the SAM site that you hit at night from where you were, or did you
Oh
never
yeah,
have?
you see the radar band blow up.
You could see that visually.
Yeah, it's just like a fireball,
Oh,
Because
wow.
the radar, the track while scan radar is like it's got two antennas on the top. One of them's
Uh-huh.
for azimuth and the other one's for elevation, and it rotates around to try to find the target.
And these were SAM 2 guidelines.
Yeah, SA2, yeah, good line.
So did you
It's
ever?
called the fan song radar.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah. Um, have you ever hit a SAM site and then it ignited some of the SAMs that hadn't launched and they're like Roman candles flying all over the place?
No, no, usually
They're
they're far away from the radar site.
oh, okay.
The radar is in the middle, and then they're either in a star or a circle around the outside of that radar band.
Okay.
Six missiles in a circle around the radar band, which is in the middle. And usually they're shaped like a star.
Were you ever fired upon by a SAM?
A couple times in the daytime, and linebacker and with the Holloman. And the thing is, if you can see it, you can defeat it. That's what we learned in the Weasel School.
Oh,
So
okay.
you want to put it either 10 or 2 o'clock. At night, never got close enough for them to launch because they were always looking for B-52s rather than us,
Okay.
you know.
Hmm.
And so if we can get to their site, they're tracking. They're not tracking us. They're tracking the bombers coming in to
Yeah.
do damage on their site, trying to protect their targets.
Yeah, definitely.
And so,
So,
but when you see one, and the first one I saw was it's kind of unusual. The guy I was flying with really had a lot of experience, and so he's just whistling a tune. I say, we got to launch out here at 8 o'clock. He says, yeah, no problem. And he just, okay. I said, well, what about it? And he said, well, watch it. I said, I am. I'm looking at it. Getting kind
oh,
of nervous. I'm getting kind of nervous. He said, well, where is it? So what do you mean, where is it? He said, where is it on the canopy? He said, he's moving up and back. He said, well, he's not tracking us. He said, if it was, it'd be in the same spot on the canopy.
oh, that's how you could tell.
Yeah, so he wasn't on a collision course. He wasn't nervous. He said that's after some other poor suckers, not after us. So, uh,
Well, I'm glad he was confident.
yeah, at least I learned something that day.
Yeah, definitely. So, So if it's not moving around, it means it's pointing right at you and coming
Yeah,
at you.
if it's not moving back or up or down or some other,
Uh-huh.
if it's not exactly in that same point, he's not going to hit you.
And you
It's just like
prefer.
a spot on the canopy getting bigger and bigger, then you know you've had it.
Oh boy. Yeah, a lot of people, air crews that were taken out by Sam's,
Yeah, for
as I
sure. Yeah.
understand, never saw it or didn't. Yeah, but you would want to see it at the 10 or 2 o'clock position.
Yeah, maybe it's just so you can play playing chicken with them. You get as close as you can because they can't turn. They're accelerating the whole time.
Mm.
They accelerate up to Mach 3.5 or
Oh
whatever.
my gosh.
And so, you know, if you they're trying to get you, so wherever you move to, they're going to turn to. So if you go up, then you try to turn down, they can't make the turn,
I
and
see.
so they just go into the ground. You know, they can't follow you if you get really close to them and try to turn because they can't make that turn to get to you.
Hmm. Did they ever like just salvo off a whole bunch and just sprayed and prayed kind of a thing? Or
Not
were they
after a
always
small target. They did after B-52s. They did
okay?
because the B-52s gave them kind of a. I guess after the second or third day, they knew when they were coming and they knew where they're going to be. So
Yeah.
they were ready for them to come in there and they'd launch a whole bunch of them at the same time. And of course, the end of 72, they were out of SAMs. They'd used them all up.
Wow. Well, I guess when Haiphong Harbor was mined, they weren't able to get them offloaded the way they were accustomed to, and that.
Well, yeah, but all the ones they had in stockpile were used up too.
Huh.
They used so many of them during the Linebacker II.
Uh-huh.
Linebacker II was the second time around there in between September and December of 72. That's when we were going over there to bomb with the B-52s a lot, you know. That was the
Uh-huh.
whole idea. So
Wow.
we had them coming out of both Guam and Utapao, B-52s. They
That's
came
something.
in flights of three, and I don't know how many flights they had a day, but quite a few.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Kind of a I guess the tactics weren't that great if they were always flying this predictable path, but like maybe there was no other way. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, there was another way. They were planning them back in Omaha or some other place. They weren't planning them in yeah, where the guys were flying from in Utapao or Guam. If those guys were planning them, they would have done some variation. You come in
Yeah,
from a different heading, a different time, a different altitude.
that would have
Hey,
made a difference, wouldn't it?
yeah, I mean, they come in the same time every day. That's why they plan it, you know? So same
Yeah.
time, same altitude. So these guys could be out drinking coffee. Okay, it's time to go get on the radar. Because they knew they were coming, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
I mean,
It
we tried to tell them, you know, the worse than that, though, we couldn't talk to them. The other thing that they would do bad was as soon as they came through the target, they just come through. As soon as they hit the target, they start a turn to get away from the target to go back home. So when they do that, when they turn away from the target, all their jamming is going down. So now they're vulnerable from the top of the airplane. See, because
oh,
the jamming just goes down below the airplane. So when the
uh-huh.
airplane turns, and then the side that's away from where their jamming is, that's where the SAMs can see them. So then they're available to see as a target on the radar.
Oh,
And so if they just delay their turn and we try to call them on guard or any other thing and they turn the radios off, they didn't want to be bothered with us talking to them. So anyway, that was just if they had held it for another 3 or 4 minutes would have been enough. Then begin their turn. Then the jamming would protect them all the way around.
uh-huh.
But
Wow.
as soon as they made the turn, the SAMs could see it. That was bad news.
Yeah, that's very bad news. And you had referenced earlier the number of B-52s that we had
Yeah,
lost.
yeah,
And they weren't just at that point, they weren't just the D black bellies, that some of the G models were actually participating now.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, I think the H's were left on the nuclear mission, the nuclear alerts back stateside. But
I don't know
wow.
anything about that.
Yeah.
I just know that they were big targets for them.
Yeah. And so now you this is all the way through December of 1972, January 1973.
Yeah.
And when did you rotate back to the States?
So then I went from Kadena to Homestead.
We'll see you.
Right.
You have a swell week.
Yeah, see
Bye
you.
bye now.
There you go.
Bye bye.
See you.